A little backstory for context for the story. I turned 18 and left home to move to a rural blue-collar town. I started working in the trades and ended up making a decent amount of money and was able to buy myself a decent place with a 3-car garage for all of my toys. I'm not afraid to admit that I treated myself. I played hard because I worked hard. I didn't grow up with a lot. My family struggled. So when I came into some money I helped them out. Paid their bills and helped them get out of debt. My family and I are close. But in no way am I perfect. There was a point in time where I hit rock bottom. I became addicted to opiates because of an injury I received at work. I basically blew my knee out and had to get surgery. I was out of work for a good chunk of time. After I healed, I went back to work but I was good and medicated. It started with opiates and then I mixed in some cocaine. I was in pain. I felt lonely. I was unhappy. I was working my ass off. But my family really helped me out and brought me back. I was in a really low point in my life and they dragged me out of that hell. Shortly after getting sober, I was about 23, I met my future ex. I'll call her Kelsey. When we first met, she was dating someone else at the time. She had a long-term boyfriend who happened to work in the same town as me. We actually worked in the same camp but because this camp is so big, I had never actually worked closely with him. Even though we didn't work closely together, we had mutual friends. One of our mutual friends was having a barbecue and Kelsey just happened to be in town that day and came to the barbecue. I'll be honest, at the barbecue she was flirting with me and I shamelessly flirted back. She texted me after that. At first it was harmless with maybe some dirty jokes here and there. I could tell she was trying to get me to bite, but I didn't until the day she told me she broke up with him. When I had my off weekend, I'd drive 3 hours to see her and stay at her place for the weekend to get my nut in. Let me tell you, she did not disappoint. And looking back, she was mentally unstable, but it gave her a little spice, and I liked it. Yeah, whatever. For the most part our relationship thrived over the next 4 years, albeit with a recurring pattern of being on again off again. Whenever I went out of my way to do something special for her, we'd get into this huge fight, and she'd break up with me. But the breakup didn't last very long because she'd still come over to fuck me and then she'd plead for reconciliation shortly after that. Honestly, this is just how it was and it felt normal to me. And it honestly felt like a joke. I just never took it seriously when she broke up with me because I knew within the week she'd be over at my place seducing me. She was crazy and it drove me wild in the best of ways. After a while though, and after talking to her recently, she told me that she broke up with me because she was ashamed about the fact that she cheated on me just as she had been cheating on her previous boyfriend. She told me she was basically addicted to it. She loved the attention. She loved the chase. And honestly she became a bit of an addiction too. I think a part of me didn't believe that I deserved love, so I got used to the feeling of being treated like that. At one point though, I tried to put my foot down and try to practice some self-control. This lasted for about 4 months. In that time, while we were broken up, I took time off work and I went and backpacked through France, Italy, Croatia, and eventually to Greece. I met some of the most beautiful women I had ever laid eyes on, and for a moment, I had forgotten about Kelsey, and shocking. I know, but I was actually happy. When I got back, I started planning my next move. I was going to put my house up for sale and get out of that small town. I wanted to move somewhere warmer and just travel up north for work. But she must have smelled blood in the water because as soon as I was shopping around, she called me up and expressed a desire to reconcile, expressing earnest intentions of commitment. So much so that we delved into discussions about marriage, starting a family, and even started house hunting together. SMH. But everything seemed to align perfectly and I actually believed her. This is where it all started to go really downhill. So my work is really sporadic. We have jobs that can last anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 months. It all really depends. While I'm off work, I go on unemployment insurance. I did end up selling my place in that blue-collar town and Kelsey and I ended up buying a place in the city that she lived in. But this all means that I can be away from home for at least 2 weeks at a time, at most maybe 6 weeks. If anything, I'd try to come home when I could, even if it was 3 days. So at one point, I come home from 6 weeks away. We just finished a shutdown. Worked about 10 days straight. As soon as I get back, I start getting really sketchy vibes. She starts love bombing me. She performs a certain act on me as soon as I walk in the door, then barbecues some steak, and then she starts a fire, we sit around the fire, and finish up with a night of fucking. I had a feeling she was trying to butter me up for something or hide something. She was definitely distracting me from something. We're laying in bed afterwards, it's about 2 a.m. She's about 6 beers deep plus a bottle of wine. She's a lightweight, so by this time, she's pretty plastered. She's laying there naked and then she mentioned that this guy, I'll call him Ned, keeps talking to her on social media. She said that he randomly reached out to her on Instagram. Right away I'm seeing a red flag. I try to shake it off and pretend like it didn't bother me. She keeps talking about this guy and how funny he is. I'm trying to bring up other things and change the subject. She keeps bringing the topic back around to this Ned guy. She starts telling me about how Ned is so understanding, how he listens to her problems, how he gets her in ways I never could. It's like a dagger to my heart, listening to her praise another man while lying naked in my bed. But I try to stay composed, pushing down the rising tide of jealousy and insecurity. As she continues, she mentions how Ned just got out of a relationship, and he has been going through a tough time lately, how he's feeling lost and alone. And then, in a moment of vulnerability, she confesses that she's been confiding in him about our relationship issues. My mind reels at the betrayal, realizing that she's been airing our private struggles to a virtual stranger. But despite the anger and hurt simmering beneath the surface, I force myself to remain calm and try to listen as she recounts their conversations. Eventually she passed out and I instantly reached for her phone and took it to the bathroom with me so I could do some digging. Yeah, I felt guilty at first, but once I saw the messages between the two of them, the guilt was replaced with rage. I instantly wake her up and I hold the phone in her face and show her the nudes they've been sending back and forth to each other. Not just recently, but prior to our 4-month break. By this point, we had been living together for close to a year. Naturally, she breaks down and she's crying and sobbing. She's drunk and not making any sense. So I take off and go stay at a buddy's place for the night. While I'm gone, she tries calling me and texting me but I'm not answering. She's absolutely blowing up my phone. In the morning, I go back home and I find her passed out in the kitchen and she's unresponsive. Come to find that she had a full-blown panic attack, so much so that she hyperventilated so much that she ended up passing out and hitting her head on the kitchen counter. She had a mild concussion. I told her I needed to hear the truth. And that's when she admitted to hooking up with Ned right before we broke up for the 4 months and I left on my trip. She said she thought that I was catching on to something back then, so she started a fight and broke up with me before I could break up with her. She said she hooked up with him while I was away and then realized she missed me and when I got back she wanted to get back together. She said she only started talking to him again while I was away working recently because I was gone and she had needs. She straight up told me that she's too horny for monogamy but that she loves me and she doesn't want to lose me. Then she drops another bomb and she tells me that she actually didn't break up with our mutual friend before we started dating. She just wanted to be with me so badly that she told me that she had. Honestly, I had a feeling that she was still seeing him. She said she broke up with him after a couple of months and after she knew that I would stick around. I'll be honest with you, the addict in me said that I could fix her. And it also said that I wanted one more hit. That's always it. One more hit. So we did try. I told her that she needed to end things with Ned in order for this to work out. Not only that, but that she has to stay sober for me. So I saw her text him and end things. I read the text message and then I saw her block him on her phone and on her Instagram account. I'm not sure why that was supposed to make me feel better. Deep down I knew it wasn't going to do anything. We talk. And despite everything, I'm still in love with her and eager to pursue our shared dreams of starting a family, getting married, and owning a home together. It's the vision I've labored tirelessly for. I'll admit, it was a lost cause. But a part of me wanted some security. I wanted this perfect little happy family. I wanted to make my parents proud. I wanted to bring the girl of my dreams home and show them just how much I turned my life around. I was a fool. Kelsey was overjoyed that I'd forgiven her and promised that she wouldn't hurt me again. In retrospect, I can't help but acknowledge my own naivety in believing her. As weeks turned into months, I started noticing small, unsettling changes. Kelsey was on her phone more often, always tilting the screen away from me. She'd get mysterious calls and texts late at night and became increasingly secretive about her whereabouts. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was amiss. One day, curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to dig a little deeper. I knew snooping wasn't the right way to handle things, but the nagging suspicion was eating me alive. I began checking her social media activity more closely, noticing she had unblocked Ned and a few other guys. I confronted her about it, but she gaslighted me, making me feel like I was being paranoid. I wanted to believe her, so I brushed it off and tried to rebuild the trust. But my gut feeling was relentless. Then, one night while Kelsey was in the shower, I checked her phone again. This time, I found messages from multiple guys. Not just Ned. They ranged from flirty banter to explicit exchanges. The final straw was a message she sent to Ned saying she missed their last hookup and couldn't wait for the next one. It hit me like a ton of bricks, she never stopped cheating. Feeling devastated and betrayed, I took screenshots of everything and sent them to my own phone as evidence. I knew that her birthday was coming up. I knew that was my chance to get back at her. For her birthday, I had rented out this hotel room where she would come back after a night of dancing with her girlfriends. I told her I had a few things to take care of, but that I would meet her at the hotel room after. Little did she know, I had been meticulously planning a special surprise for her birthday, a surprise that would also serve as my payback. I've been hinting to everyone that I had something big planned, dropping heavy clues about a potential engagement proposal. They were all eating out of the palm of my hand. Her friends were buzzing with excitement, and Kelsey herself seemed to be over the moon. Obviously some of the girls had spilled the beans, which was fantastic. She would walk into the room thinking this night would mark a new chapter in our relationship. I meticulously set the scene at the hotel suite. I made sure everything looked perfect, candles, champagne, romantic decorations, the whole 9 yards. Her friends gathered around, phones out, ready to capture what they believed would be the proposal moment. Kelsey's eyes sparkled with anticipation, her face glowing with excitement. I started by giving a heartfelt speech about our journey together, how much she meant to me, and how I've always envisioned our future. I had to put on the biggest acting career of my life. Instead of getting down on one knee, I pulled out some papers. Her breath hitched, and there was a collective gasp from the crowd. Kelsey took it and started to read. It was a printout of the messages between her and Ned, along with screenshots of her conversations with other guys. Her face fell, the room growing silent as the realization of what she was reading hit her. As she was reading the papers, I told her that this is what you've been doing behind my back. Cheating, lying, and betraying my trust. I watched her friends' expressions shift from excitement to shock and disgust. I told her that she didn't deserve a proposal and that I was done with her lies and deceit and everyone should know the truth about her. Kelsey looked at me and lunged at me like she was going to slap me, but then luckily one of her friends stepped in. She started to cry and I told her that I was done and I walked out. I knew I had to hurry up and take the next steps to truly move on from this toxic relationship. Honestly, I hadn't really thought that far ahead at that point in time. But the very next day I contacted a buddy of mine who's a real estate agent and he helped me start the process of selling our home. I explained the situation to him and he was understanding and professional, and started the process up relatively fast. While waiting for the house to be listed, I packed up her stuff. I called her and told her she needed to come pick up her things. She arrived with one of her friends from the night before, looking disheveled and broken. There were no more tears or pleas, just a resigned acceptance that this was the end. I watched as she loaded her stuff into her car, and when she was done, she handed the keys to the place we once shared and told her it was over for good. I said I was selling the place. During this process, Kelsey did ask for a share of the money from the sale of the house. She argued that, despite everything, she had contributed to our life together and deserved something for her efforts. I knew she might try this, so I had already consulted a lawyer. My lawyer advised me that, since her name wasn't on the deed and she hadn't made any financial contributions towards the mortgage or the down payment, she didn't have any legal claim to the money. Still, I wanted to avoid a prolonged dispute, so I offered her a small sum as a goodwill gesture, enough to help her move on but not enough to feel like I was being taken advantage of. Kelsey reluctantly accepted the offer, probably realizing she didn't have much of a choice. The real estate agent had lined up some viewings, and within a few weeks, we had an offer on the house and I accepted it right away. I used the proceeds from the sale to secure a new place for myself, far away from the city where Kelsey lived and closer to my family. And now I'm here. I'm in therapy, I'm working on me. I'm going to the gym. I'm not quite ready to start dating again and I'll never buy another place with a chick that I can't trust or who has broken my trust ever again. I'm trying to heal the old wounds. My family, again, has really supported me throughout all of this and I couldn't thank them enough. Thanks for listening to me ramble on, guys. Sharing this has been cathartic for me and I genuinely hope it can offer some comfort or perspective to anyone going through similar struggles. For now, I'm planning my next trip to Europe. Maybe till heal this old dog. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Found out my wife cheated on me with our neighbor because when she got pregnant the timing was off, the baby wasn't mine. So I exposed them at our baby shower in front of everyone. I, 33 male, met my wife, 33 female, when we were working in the same office 8 years ago. I was new in town, I just moved to a brand new city for my job and she was a receptionist at the time. She gave me a tour of the facilities, and we hit it off. It took a few weeks for me to work up the courage to ask her out, but she said yes and we had been together ever since. We got married a few years later and everything felt like a dream. We were happy, doing well in our lives, and so in love. Before marriage, we had a conversation about family and we both wanted children but we wanted to wait until it was the right time. We saw starting a family in our 20s as giving up our youth. So, we made the most of it. We traveled, we went skydiving, and we enjoyed ourselves without having to worry about anyone else. Over the years during our marriage, I started to realize that I wanted to settle down and start a family. However, it was clear that my wife still wanted to have the jet-setting lifestyle that we had before. We actually ended up getting into a lot of arguments about how we wanted different things in our lives. In one of those arguments, I told her that if she wasn't going to have children, I would have to leave her. I know it was a crappy ultimatum, but I had been very clear that I wanted children. She told me about some of the fears she had, and how she wanted to be a mom but she wasn't sure when. I guess that gave me enough hope to stick around. About a year had passed and approaching the subject was a delicate situation for me, so I tried to avoid it. She was still going out on the weekends with her girlfriends and going to bars and clubs while I was home recuperating from the work week. I started to notice that she was staying out later and going out more frequently with her friends. Before, she would go out on Friday and Saturday nights, but she had started going out on weeknights as well. When I asked her about it, She told me that she and her friends found a fun happy hour place and had been going there. One night, I was at home watching a nature documentary while my wife was supposedly at a happy hour with some of her friends. One of those friends happened to be our next door neighbor who we were pretty close with. She and her husband would invite us over all the time and we would do the same with them. Someone rang my doorbell, so I got up and answered it. Lo and behold, it was the woman next door that I was under the impression was out with my wife. Apparently, her car wouldn't start, so she needed me to give it a jump since her husband hadn't come home yet. I agreed and grabbed my keys to walk over to her house with her. I asked her why she wasn't at the happy hour with my wife, and she told me that my wife said it was canceled. A lot of red flags were flying for me at that point. Our neighbors were probably some of our closest friends. I didn't understand why my wife would lie to her and tell her the happy hour was canceled. As we were talking more, she mentioned that she had really been looking forward to it and she was upset that it was canceled because her husband had been working late a lot more. Right away I was kind of suspicious about that. Maybe it was my own paranoia or maybe I was putting some pieces together that I didn't even know were connected, but I was wondering if there might have been something going on with my wife and my neighbor. When she got home, I asked her about it outright. She told me that I was being crazy for assuming that she would be cheating on me with our neighbor of all people. Then she explained why she told our neighbor the happy hour was canceled. Apparently, she had rubbed someone in her group of friends the wrong way and they were uncomfortable with her being there. I believed what she said at the time, but in hindsight, it didn't make any sense. Our neighbor was the sweetest woman and I couldn't understand how she would rub someone the wrong way like that. With all our issues, our sex life had pretty much gone out the window. We had a lot of built-up resentment toward each other and we didn't really talk about it in a healthy way to want to be with each other. One night when I got home from work, my wife was home and very eager to sleep with me. I was surprised, but I didn't think much of it. I was just happy it was happening. About a week later, she was waiting for me when I got home from work in the living room holding a pregnancy test in her hand. It was positive. At the time, I was completely over the moon. I was finally going to have a kid. Never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined that it wasn't mine. She wasn't going to clubs or happy hours because of the pregnancy, but she was still out quite often. I felt like we should have been together through most of the pregnancy, but it still felt kind of like she was avoiding me. Something that occurs to me now, but I didn't think much of the time, is that she never wanted me to go with her to the ultrasound appointments. She would always tell me that they weren't anything important, but I wanted to see the little baby on the monitor. I was finally able to convince her to let me go to one. While we were there, the doctor showed us our baby on the monitor and I was so moved I almost cried. Out of curiosity, I asked her if they had an estimated conception date. My wife quickly stepped in and played it off like they would have no way of knowing, but the doctor said that they could give a rough estimate usually within a week of the actual date. She gave me the estimated time range, and later on when I was thinking about it I realized that it was during the period of time my wife and I hadn't been together in months. She and I had sex together one time, and a week later she told me she was pregnant. I did a little bit of research online to figure out if a week was enough time to get a positive test, and from what I gathered it was pretty rare. It was rare enough for a woman to even notice she was pregnant a week after conception. Something wasn't adding up, and I needed answers before the baby came. I've never been one to go through my wife's things. That was a boundary neither of us wanted to cross with each other. But in this case, when I thought she was lying to me about being the father of the child I so desperately wanted, I was able to justify doing it. I logged into her laptop while she was out and I found countless messages through her social media pages between her and our neighbor. All of my suspicions about the two of them had been correct. They had been sleeping together for several months, and it was clear through the messages that the baby was his. He didn't want anything to do with it and he was worried that it would ruin his life if anything came out about the affair. They both agreed that they would pretend the baby was mine. I honestly can't put into words how heartbreaking that was to confirm. Having a child was my number one priority at the time. I was so happy that it was finally happening and all of that was taken from me. I wasn't going to let them get away with what they were trying to do. Neither of them got to ruin my life and pretend like nothing happened. A few weeks passed, and I was pulling away from my wife. I was in the process of getting a divorce attorney and filing the papers so I could surprise her with them. We were throwing a shower so people could buy us gifts, and welcome the baby a few months before they came. All of our friends and family came over to our house for the event. It was the perfect time to call them both out for the affair. Before the presents were open and the cake was cut, I stood up next to my wife and told the room that I wanted to say something. Everybody looked at me as if they were expecting me to give some heartfelt message about how much I loved my wife and couldn't wait to welcome our baby into this world together. Instead, I congratulated her and the father on their baby. I could sense that there was some confusion in the room, so I clarified. I let everybody know, including my wife, that I knew the baby wasn't mine. Everyone was shocked and disgusted with her. It takes a special kind of person to pretend like a baby is someone else's. When I was finished, I handed her divorce papers and told her that I would be leaving the house and that I would have nothing to do with her or her baby. My neighbor's wife was furious and she dragged him outside to tell him off. As it turned out, he was given a position at her father's company and was up for quite the promotion because he planned on retiring. It was a family-owned company and his father-in-law wanted to make sure it stayed in the family, so he was going to inherit all of it. When they got divorced, that didn't happen. I was able to get a divorce from my wife and I'm better off without her now. I'm actually with someone else who seems to want the same things in life as I do. We're still in the beginning stages, so I don't know if this is a forever thing, but I have a good feeling about her. My now ex-wife and our neighbor tried to work things out for the sake of the baby, but I guess they only liked each other when they were sneaking around. Neither of them are in relationships. My ex ended up moving back home with her mom because she couldn't afford the rent in our neighborhood by herself.